Beneath the weeping willows and orderly gravel paths of the Springwood Sanitarium Gardens in Hartford, Connecticut, lie 13 marble benches, each inscribed with a benefactor's name and the dates 1898 to 1903, to the wealthy families who donated them. They were memorials to loved ones lost to sudden, tragic mental collapses. But in 1954, when the state ordered the asylum's demolition to make way for a modern psychiatric facility, construction crews unearthed a vault that the governor himself ordered sealed, its contents classified for 70 years by order of a probate court. Beneath each of those 13 garden benches, excavators found not just foundation stones, but a sealed ossuary box. Inside each box was a single, pristine skeleton, arranged with ceremonial care, and each skull showed a single, minute puncture at the base of the cranium, a defect never noted in any autopsy report. What the forensic team discovered next would unravel a legacy of philanthropy into a tapestry of horror, a copper-bound journal, soldered shut within the vault's wall, written in the flourishing script of the sanitarium's founder, Dr. Alastair Finch, detailing a 5-year campaign of therapeutic elimination that began with a theory of human purity and ended with the creation of his own secret cemetery of the perfected. Before we descend into the mind of Dr. Alastair Finch and the chilling ideology that transformed a celebrated humanitarian into Hartford's most prolific unseen killer, we need you with us on this investigation into history's darkest corners. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you're always notified when we unearth these buried truths. And tell us in the comments what's the most haunting old building in your town. The journal's prologue, dated September 1, 1898, begins not with an apology, but a declaration. The garden must be weeded for the roses to bloom. I shall become the gardener of the mind, removing the irreparably flawed to preserve the beauty of the whole. This is not murder. It is horticulture on a grand scale. Hartford at the dawn of the 20th century was a city of stark contrasts. It was the insurance capital of the world, a place of granite banks and burgeoning fortunes, built by captains of industry who championed progress, order, and a particular vision of American excellence. It was also a city deeply anxious about the tide of immigration, the perceived threats of hereditary degeneracy, and the social burdens of the unfit. Into this fertile ground of anxiety and ambition stepped Dr. Alastair Finch, a graduate of Yale and Johns Hopkins. Finch was a luminary. He spoke eloquently of moral treatment and therapeutic environments, arguing that architecture itself could cure mental illness. His designs for Springwood Sanitarium, opened in 1895, were revolutionary. Airy sunrooms, peaceful gardens, private suites a world away from the grim, prison-like asylums of the past. It became the refuge of choice for New England's elite, a discreet and luxurious place to send a melancholic wife, a neurasthenic son, or an eccentric uncle whose behavior threatened family reputation. Finch's success was underpinned by two pillars: his formidable chief administrator, Miss Eleanor Price, a woman of razor-sharp intellect and unwavering loyalty who managed every facet of the institution with silent efficiency, and his head of orderlies, a man known only as Mr. Silas, a formidable, quiet presence who could calm the most agitated patient was a luck and who knew every hidden passage and service tunnel in the sprawling complex. Dr. Finch was not a monster in the common sense. He was charming, philanthropic, and genuinely believed in his own evolving philosophy. Initially, he sought true cures, but by 1898, influenced by the rising pseudoscience of eugenics and his own mounting frustration with incurable cases, his beliefs curdled. He began to see certain patients not as ill, but as pollutants, genetic dead ends, moral failures, and financial drains on their illustrious families, who often quietly wished for a swift, respectable conclusion. The catalyst was a case of Mr. Arthur Lowell, a shipping magnate's heir admitted for hysterical paralysis and violent outbursts. Lowell's family, desperate to avoid scandal, had given Finch broad discretion. For months, Finch tried every humane treatment. Then, one evening, he read a letter from Lowell's brother, hinting that a peaceful passing would be a mercy to all. That same night, Finch administered an experimental combination of morphine and atropine. Lowell's death was recorded as sudden cerebral hemorrhage. The family expressed relieved gratitude and made a generous donation for a garden bench in his memory. A profound, dark door in Finch's mind swung open. He realized the perfect system was already in his hands. The families of the wealthy desired discretion above all. Death certificates were signed by compliant, paid physicians who never stepped foot in Springwood. The patients were isolated, their conditions already volatile, and the sanitarium's design, which he had so carefully crafted, contained spaces unknown to any inspector, a disused hydrotherapy basement, a sealed sub-basement accessed through his private study, and the extensive garden grounds. His method became ritualistic. The patient selected for gardening his private term would be moved to a secluded suite. Finch would spend a final session with them, recording their ravings or silences as final proof of degenerative intellect. Then, Mr. Silas would administer a draft that induced a deep, comatose state. In the hidden sub-basement, Finch would perform his final procedure, a precise, post-mortem puncture at the occipital bone with a specialized trocar. A false cause of death would be documented, and the family would be notified of a tragic, unexpected turn, but Finch did not dispose of the bodies. This was the core of his grotesque artistry. In his twisted logic, these flawed vessels had been purified through his intervention. They were now perfect specimens, freed from their defective minds. He would have their bodies chemically preserved, the skeletons meticulously cleaned and bleached by Mr. Silas in a hidden workshop. Then, under cover of night, they would be interred in a lead-lined ossuary box beneath a newly installed marble bench in the garden, purchased with the family's own memorial donation. The victim literally became part of the foundation of Finch's beautiful lie. Miss Price discovered the truth within the first year. Auditing the books, she found discrepancies in medicinal stores and payments to external doctors. One night, she followed Mr. Silas. The horror she witnessed in the sub-basement would have broken a lesser person. Instead, after a night of silent reckoning, she made her calculation. Finch's vision secured her position, power, and wealth. She rationalized it as managing a necessary, if distasteful, business function. She became the ultimate gatekeeper, using her administrative genius to weave an impenetrable web of false records, laundered funds, and expertly managed family relations, all while maintaining a facade of graceful propriety.
For 5 years, everything worked perfectly. The machine ran without a single failure. The garden grew more beautiful with every new bench. Springwood became famous. Dr. Finch traveled across the country, giving lectures about how peaceful and humane his institution was. He spoke about order, control, progress. But in private, his journal told a different story. It was filled with cold medical notes about his patients. Pages of philosophy justifying his actions, and detailed drawings of tunnels hidden beneath the garden. The first problem came from the outside. A young journalist named Timothy Shaw, from the Hartford Courant, was writing a simple society article. He was tracking charitable donations. That is when he noticed something strange. Many wealthy families were donating to Springwood, and they were doing it very close together in time. At first, Shaw thought it was a coincidence. Then, he received an anonymous tip. The message told him to compare dates. Dates of admission. And dates of death. So Shaw started digging. He posed as a researcher studying death rates in private. Asylum. At the same time, danger was growing inside Springwood. A new patient arrived. Her name was Florence Archer. She was not violent. She was not delusional. She suffered from severe anxiety after a family tragedy, and she was very observant from her window. She noticed strange activity at night. Orderlies. Working in the garden long after hours, lanterns moving near a new bench site. Florence began keeping a secret diary. She wrote down staff schedules. Patients who suddenly stop appearing at meals. And the private meetings between Dr. Finch and Miss Price. Finch sensed something was wrong. So he took action for the journalist. He created a distraction. He invited Shaw for a full tour of Springwood. He showed him clean hallways and smiling staff. Miss Price prepared fake records. Families were coached to speak only praise. Finch even suggested that other institutions might be responsible for the rumors. Shaw left impressed. His doubts faded. Florence was a different problem. Finch increased her medication stronger. Sedatives. Higher doses. The goal was to cloud her mind, but Florence fought through it. She invented her own shorthand and kept writing. She befriended a kind maid. And she passed her a note with just 3 words: bench 9. Dig. Truth. The maid was terrified. She did not dig. Instead, she took the note to a local Catholic priest, Father Michael O'Bannon. O'Bannon had spent years working in poor neighborhoods. He trusted his instincts. He listened to the maid's story. He saw the fear in her eyes. Quietly, he began asking questions. He visited families who had lost loved ones at SPRINGWOOD. He offered comfort, and he listened. A pattern appeared. Rushed burials sealed. Coffins. No final goodbyes. And Finch controlled everything. By the fall of 1903, the pressure was closing and Florence knew her time was running out. So she pretended to recover. She praised Finch. She thanked him for her treatment. She asked for garden walks. He agreed. During one walk, she stumbled near a new bench. Bench 13. As she fell, her shoe scraped the dirt. She felt something hard beneath the soil. Not earth, something solid. That same week, Father O'Bannon went to Timothy Shaw, not the police. He told Shaw everything. No proof, just a terrifying story. Shaw believed him. He knew he needed evidence. So he planned a break-in. On the night of November 2nd, 1903, everything collapsed. Shaw broke into the administrative office, but Miss Price caught him. They struggled. She struck him with a heavy paperweight. Shaw fell unconscious. At the same time, Florence made her move. During a shift change, she escaped her room. She ran for the garden. She hoped to reach the caretaker's shed. Mr. Silas stopped her. Now, Finch faced disaster. An unconscious journalist, a missing patient, and his secrets on the edge of exposure for the first time. Finch panicked. He gave Miss Price a short order. Package the journalist. Use the eastern tunnel, the river. Then he went to the basement. Florence was bound, But she was not afraid. Finch explained his philosophy. He wanted to be understood. Florence looked at him and spoke one word. Monster. Finch lost control. Performed his procedure while she was still alive. It was not careful. It was not planned. It was rage when she died. Finch knew it was over. The garden was ruined. He ordered 2 more boxes prepared. He wrote one final journal entry, sealed it in copper. And hid it in the wall. Florence Archer and Timothy Shaw were placed in preservation tanks. They were meant to become future benches, but Finch was done. He wrote a resignation letter. He blamed exhaustion. He handed control to Miss Price. Then he walked into his greenhouse. He drank cyanide made from peach pits and lay down among his orchids. He was found the next morning. Miss Price handled everything. Finch's death was ruled a suicide. Shaw's disappearance became a mystery. Florence's death was called a medical episode. The investigations were brief. Too many powerful families wanted Silent Spring would continue. Miss Price ran it for 10 more years. The truth stayed buried for 50 years until 1905. Workers found the ossuaries, the journal, and Shaw's remains. The story was confirmed, but even then, much of it was hidden. This is a reminder. Evil does not always look like madness. Sometimes it wears intelligence, sometimes it speaks softly. Dr. Finch believed he was improving humanity. Instead, he built a garden on top of graves. If this story stayed with you, follow for more hidden histories. Like the video. Subscribe. Because sometimes the most beautiful gardens hide the darkest secrets.